Hello and welcome everyone to our 41st webinar series. It is truly an honor and a privilege for AABN to host this webinar. I have no doubt in my mind that this webinar will be a worthwhile experience. We have an opportunity before us to learn from some of the best experts in the field, and I hope we will all walk away from this webinar enriched with a better understanding of digital transformation. I would like to begin by giving a brief introduction to AABN and describe what it is that we do here. As part of the ongoing effort to think global while focusing on the local, AABN Group was formed. The spotlight was on entrepreneurship, with alumni from across the globe participating, sharing ideas, and networking with experts from various fields. This has become a tremendously rewarding program on our calendar. The major objective of AABN is to promote business and trade amongst the community. AABN acts as a catalyst for sustainable growth of business amongst the community. In its close to 4 years of existence, AABN has established operational synergy with a host of entrepreneurs to leverage each other's capabilities for enhancing business relations. AABN member companies are involved in cross-section of business domains such as manufacturing, engineering, construction, consumer goods, electronics, IT, pharmaceuticals, HR consulting, agriculture, management and project consulting, healthcare, among others. We all know that the rapid changes we see in technology development often make our application investment obsolete and sometimes redundant in very short span of time. We are pleased that this forum will see two leading industry proponents touch on innovative digital transformation integration roadmap and COVID-19 management framework. Unprecedented events within the last couple of years and rapid changes brought many of us to relook into our operations worldwide. The coming years will be really challenging. Communication technologies, automotive technologies, and the way we move around logistics, etc., are fast being tied to next generation internet technologies. New enterprise-focused companies have innovated around real-time data. They are communication-centric rather than computation-centric and highly customized on demand in real time. It is not going to be easy to sort out the large amount of technological development coming onward, but one thing is for sure, the pace is growing a lot faster. We need to make informed decisions and make these investments worthwhile. We are one of the communities that best understands the significance of knowledge in human progress, and it is thanks to this knowledge that is always evolving that we have witnessed one of the most important revolutions in humanity, that is the digital revolution. In our country, we early on understood the value of knowledge, and since then we have been cultivating that. We aspire to become the network access point of the digital economy. We want to feel connected among ourselves as best as we can. It is fair enough to admit that we are not starting from scratch thanks to the strong investment of our country more than 2 decades ago. We are now enjoying advancements in digital technologies. The initiatives so far in our country have been recognized by the World Economic Forum by highlighting that India is among the top nations worldwide with the best prepared population to use digital technology. We have all seen that the use of innovation has grown in importance, but we believe it is not only a question of where the new growth should come from or in which specific fields we need more sciences, research and development. The key question is also which growth should we strive for, especially after the crisis. We are honored this morning to welcome two very special guests who will share with us an update on COVID-19, the great accelerator of digital transformation. Given the backgrounds, Mr. Rahul Ganapathy and Mr. Ashwin Desikan are the two most suited to talk about digital transformation. Some of the points that they will discuss include growth of digital transformation in the COVID era, role of digital technology in pandemic management, measures adopted by Chennai Corporation, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our very special guest. Mr. Rahul Ganapathy is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Atsua Technologies. Rahul has more than 14 plus years experience in IT and R&D services, specializing in the areas of consultative solution, sales, product management, and technology consulting. Rahul also has extensive hands-on experience in next-gen digital, AI, and Internet of Things. He has an engineering degree in computer science and MBA in marketing. Our second guest speaker, Mr. Ashwin, is the Chief Technology Officer of Atsua Technologies. Mr. Ashwin has over 20 years of experience in financial services, logistics, energy industries, managing cross-functional teams in software architecture and development. He has a BS in electrical and electronics engineering. Over the past several months following our first webinar event, we have benefited tremendously from our relationship with the participants and experts. We have made and maintained long-lasting relationship which helped in our work of inculcating good entrepreneurial ecosystem. I hope this webinar will also foster mutually beneficial relationship, networking across our entrepreneurs as well as at individual levels to ensure a wider outreach of knowledge and further increase our networking. When we took the challenge of being the host for these webinars, we were aware of the complexity and we knew that without the support of the core committee members, this would be impossible. A special thanks to Mr. Ram Sadagopan, 87 batch Electronics and Instrumentation for being the enabler for this webinar. Thank you, and over to you, Rahul and Ashwin.
A very good morning, Ellarkum Vanakkam. I hope all of you are doing good and staying safe in this tough time. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee, the core committee of the Annamalai Alumni Business Network for giving us this opportunity to talk about the great digital accelerator. Special thanks to Mr. Gopi and Mr. Tariq for setting this up and coordinating, and a special mention to Mr. Ram Sadagopan for introducing us to this elite group. Thank you so much. So before I start, I have Ashwin Desikan also with us, and what we have decided is we will structure this in a format where we will talk about what is really changing around us with the COVID crisis coming in. And we have been really fortunate enough to have given the opportunity by the Chennai Corporation for managing COVID for the last 400 plus days, ever since wave one. We have been working with the Chennai Corporation and the leadership team at the Chennai Corporation in really bringing in an end-to-end digital pandemic response management platform, which has become the core to drive, manage, and also effectively communicate and make sure that the care continuum is provided during the pandemic. And we will talk about in length in terms of what were the digital initiatives that were taken, how did we see the results, what were some of the challenges, and all of us definitely look at pandemic in a way that it has created a positive impact around us, and we will be talking about what are the real positive impact that the pandemic has created. So let me quickly share my screen and have a very small presentation that we have made. Just a second. So if we look at the pandemic, before I start, a quick introduction about our company and what we do. We as a company at Atsuya Technologies believe in imagine the outcome, right? Anything today that we do is an outcome driven initiative, right? It could be a relationship that we build during our work. It could be the happiness that we create in the working environment. It could be a cost saving that we deliver through our solutions, or it could be the trust that we develop between a customer and a company. More to do, we are in a phase where we look at relationship beyond the contract, right? And where we believe that imagine with all possible ways, think big, dream big, and definitely the outcome is something that you will get as a reward for all the efforts. We believe in that culture at our company, and we are IoT and AI startup founded in 2017, based out of Chennai, headquartered in Chennai. Our engineering center is based out of Chennai. And our core focus is to really bring in Internet of Things for sustainable businesses. So, or to make the businesses sustainable, right? So, our mission is to power sustainability goals for businesses and communities. And we work with variety of stakeholders to deliver the solutions end to end, all the way from the devices to dashboard, all integrated with one single platform which unlocks various use cases. And we are a Startup India recognized company, DIPP registered company, and we are winners of the Atal Innovation Challenge under the Smart Climate Agriculture category, because we work with a lot of farmers to help in the post-harvest food loss prevention using technology. As a company, we are focused on delivering solutions that are aligned to UN Sustainable Development Goals, starting from our temperature monitoring solution across the supply chain, helping dairy retailers, meat retailers today to reduce the food wastage by continuous monitoring of cold rooms, to our digital platform, which we will be talking about today, really contributing for the good health and well-being of people, especially during the pandemic time. Um, um, uh, and our water monitoring solution, which helps in the reduction of water, which is becoming an important resource. After energy, now water is really becoming an important resource that we all are worried about in terms of conservation. We work with several factories, buildings, hotels, and other businesses to really make them energy efficient. And we are also impacting in the climate action per se by the amount of carbon emission prevention that we make. And we are also into logistics, end-to-end logistics delivery platform, all powered by one single platform called the Atsia One Integrated Platform, where we are also responsible for enabling goal number 12, which is basically responsible consumption and production across the supply chain. All of it, if you see, are enabling cities and communities to be more efficient and effective, be it the energy monitoring that we do for buildings, and the work that we do for the government, and the work that we kind of do for large factories. It's all boiling down to really empowering and enabling communities, and not just look at the product pricing and the traditional four Ps, but is also to look at people and also planet, which is very, very important from a current scenario perspective, right? So that is the real driver. And today's session is going to be very, very interesting session. I think we have all seen this, done this in our entire thing, where we actually have seen digital really coming into our lives, right? In terms of how digital has penetrated, and it has actually taken a great acceleration when it comes to adoption, and how typically this has happened in the COVID is something that we are going to be talking today as a topic. Now, as all of you would know, right? See, throughout history, um, terrible events have led to great transformation, right? I think it is very, very evident from the past epidemics and pandemics that we actually see. If we take the 1300s, the bubonic plague that happened, we saw a complete transformation in the modern employment contract, right? Where the whole concept of modern employment contract itself really materialized during this particular pandemic. In mid 1800s, you had the cholera epidemics, right? And when I was reading about the change that really took in the cholera epidemics, one of the important aspect which really transformed was the urban parks. That there was a lot, a good number of urban parks that were created in the community, and also a significant improvement in the infrastructure, right? Be it the healthcare, be it the housing, where you had better houses and all of that. I was very intrigued to see, okay, what is urban parks how to do with cholera pandemics, and this was very specifically in New York, where between the wave 1, wave 2 of the cholera epidemics, about 5,000 deaths that happened at that point in time when it all started. I'm saying. What really happened was they found out that the quality of air also really contributed and to the epidemic, and that led to creation of urban parks where they saw the trees as natural lungs that would actually purify the air. And I think that was the year when we saw structured changes in the entire architecture of a city, where parks were considered as an integral part of the planning. Um, in 1918, we all know the Spanish flu, the three waves that happened, and 50 million deaths that really happened in the Spanish flu really revolutionized the healthcare, right? I think healthcare was really looked at very differently, and you would have also seen a lot of these 1918's images coming from the pandemic, where you would have seen the mass adherence to mask and protocols and all of that, social distancing, isolation, all of this were actually experienced in 1918. But the underlying message there is there was this entire healthcare system which was revolutionized in that particular year. Now, in 2019, where we are all we experienced the COVID-19, really makes us think, okay, what has really changed around us, right? If you look at from 1300 to 1918, we could name few things that changed, right? For example, in 1918, one more vertical that really took off is the media, the print media vertical, especially for mass communication and messaging to go out. This was an important vertical that also took off in 1918, right? But in 2019, what really can be called as a big transformation that happened, or as Mr. Gopi put it in the introduction, right? What has led to the governments or businesses or communities to face such a massive pandemic? What has really helped the government or the communities to face the pandemic is a big question that is there in the mind, right? I think the one single important answer, which was like a binding force, or I would call it like a thread that connected all of us together to be positive, to stay connected, to really see the right things around us, and to be in touch with our friends and families, was really the digital transformation that happened in the COVID era. I think we can actually, like how we say, the BC and AD kind of a thing. From businesses to communities, people are asking, what is before COVID? BC knows before COVID and after COVID, right? So that has really become a big way that we look at what has really changed around us. Now, when we look at digital transformation, right? The digital transformation, obviously, the first thing that really happened for us is the way we actually started leading the life, right? In terms of, if I try to take offices and businesses, the work from home really became a big drive, and never a top IT company or a manufacturing company, or businesses imagined that all of the employees would be working from home. On one hand, the HR community before COVID were looking at how do you really keep an engagement going, office, the employee engagement high, scores high, satisfaction scores high. How do we really make them come to office? Can we measure productivity, right? But just within few months, everything changed, and the whole shift really was towards each one of our homes, right? Where we really looked at work from home. Hey, what are the tools? Should I use a Zoom or a Google Meet? How do we really stay connected? How do I measure the productivity? How do I really make sure that every employee is safe? Right from an employee perspective or from a business standpoint, things started changing, uh, and the way we buy things, the way we consume content, the way we really approached the entire social media, and the whole social distancing, everything had a digital touch to it, right? Never we imagined the deliveries would be done by Dunzos and the Swiggies of the world. The food will be procured through the online aggregators and stuff. So a lot of things really changed. Overall, this is a very interesting report from McKinsey, right? What could have taken globally 3 years from an adoption perspective, right? I think COVID has really accelerated, and the adoption acceleration has been 3 years globally, if you look at. But very interestingly, APAC, which is where all of us are part of, the adoption acceleration has become the 4 years, right? So we have seen 4 years of adoption coming in just this COVID crisis. And Europe and North America also had a very big digital adoption. It was throughout. I think one thing COVID really taught all of us is that it did not differentiate by geography. It did not differentiate by the class of people. It doesn't differentiate by the organization positions or power, right? It treated everyone equally from what it had to give to the people. And I think that was an important, I think, learning from the COVID, that whatever the challenges that might come in, but in unison, if we actually take everything into one single view or a perspective, and stay unified, united, I think it is going to be really helpful, right? And this digital adoption became a very big opportunity for a few of the verticals. I would shortly cover what are these verticals, and it also had its own impact, right? Where there were physical touch points required. Never we imagined our kids in front of a laptop. Before COVID, we used to tell them, "Hey, avoid your screen time, reduce the number of hours that you sit in front of your mobile. Don't take your iPads." Right now, the same parent is now going to the kid and telling, attend your classes, the teacher has come, you have to log in. See, the whole perspective is changing, and the way we approach digital for a particular use case itself is something that is definitely changed. From verticals that have grown, right? And this is actually a data from the US, and but more or less, if you see, look at the Indian context also, the general merchandising and e-commerce vertical really have taken off, right? We work with some of the customers in e-commerce and meat retail, dairy, all of them, and we've seen about 8x growth in the installed base of the cold rooms and other things, which really showed, okay, there is a increased demand, and we saw a lot of acquisition deals happening, especially in the e-commerce, which really became a very big boom, right? In terms of the online e-commerce, be it medicine delivery, be it the pickup and drop of goods, or it could be the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world, which really had a surge in the demand for e-commerce. Another interesting element came in the home improvement ideas. I think when you open LinkedIn today, you see a lot of these pictures which are posted by employees that the work desk was provided for my work from home. This one allowance from my office. This is my kit that I received, the onboarding kit that I received. Okay, all of these are led to looking at home improvement, setting aside a single separate room for office room within our homes. and that also has increased the need for buying or a bigger house, or the thought for buying a bigger house. So the real estate market has also taken a big, a slight, I would say, a slight increase in the sales, and people looking at ways in which we could look at a better home. The entire warehousing market has boomed because of the amount of imports which stopped. What really also happened is the warehouses were now today used by the e-commerce to store products because of the demand. So that's somehow the warehouse also really increased. We saw an increase in the sales of alcohols, the snacks, food delivery, of course, a lot of OTT. Whenever we imagined some of our the films where our stars would come in, we will see it from home. And even though there was a lot of reluctance by the industry to really release films in the OTT, but I think COVID has made that acceleration fast, right? Adoption fast. Gaming and online grocers, again, there were a lot of new apps that started coming in. Apart from this, there were also a lot of new age services which were provided, be it the urban clubs of the world, the aggregator services for the house keeping, and the maids and all of that. There were a lot of new players who have actually come in, who are trying to kind of capitalize. Of course, there are the evident verticals which also got impacted, like the entertainment, movie theaters, fitness, your airlines, travel, transport, event, your fast foods, your physical dining in a hotel, where things moved onto cloud kitchen model, where the physical hotels really started looking at cloud kitchen model, and then started delivering through the food delivery apps part of it. Buying of new mobiles have come down a bit, but the consumption of content on the mobile had increased. So these are some of the trends that we saw from the verticals, right? I'm sure each one of us would be able to relate on where we are actually seeing a surge in the adoption, where we are also seeing the significant impact in the verticals, right? But apart from all of these verticals, one big vertical which really looked at digital in a very serious way is the government vertical, right? I think without adopting digital, I think India wouldn't have been able to face this pandemic at this scale, and considering the population and the rate at which the cases were coming in. I think the government vertical really embracing digital was a very, very, very big turning point. I would say it's a very strong reason why India by itself was able to really fight COVID better than many other countries from a wave one or a vaccination standpoint. I think it is an important reason. Now, these are some of the things that we saw, right? Say how India used digital, right from Arogya Setu, which really helped in the entire social distancing part of it, or looking at a digital ID card for COVID, if we were to call it, from a safety protocol standpoint, or the pharma companies like the 1mgs of the world, Pharmacy and all of that, delivering medicines around the clock, and not just to consumers or the citizens, but also the uninterrupted access to medical supplies which were given to the hospitals, the food delivery, and the genies of the world, which constantly made us connected, right? Sending food packets to the people who are in need, or it could be shipping items, and even office documents were actually going on Swiggy's and Zomato's of the world in terms of delivery, right? Never we imagined the milk and the grocery delivery, the ordering, and to see a wait time of 1 week to get a token for grocery delivery would be a reality, right? Office collaboration, again, as I told you, the meeting, all of that really changed the way we really looked at how do we collaborate, whether it is training and learning, were all over the LMS, Moodle, and all of that, which really had a big impact in the adoption, right? All this was possible, right? I think for the fact that India had a very strong adoption on the digital payments, right? I think the fundamental requirement for all of this is to really enable the payments, and I think that was an important reason for all of this or most of this initiatives to be very successful, is because India had a very strong payment integration and a gateway, multiple options for people to pay. I think these really revolutionized the way digital was looked at, and very interesting numbers, right? So never we had thought that allowing an employee to work from home, right, will increase the productivity of an employee by 20%. And that was a very interesting number that came out, where large organizations or most of the organizations have seen a surge in the productivity improvements of an employee. They've also seen a drastic reduction in the operational cost of course, the large buildings that they had leased out and rented were not used, and they kind of had to surrender their properties, and which really led to a lot of rental savings and operational savings, right? And I think companies have started looking at how do we transfer all of this to the employee, because now the focus is on the mental health, physical health, and also about the monetary support that we could provide to an employee as an incentive. I think it's a very different perspective that has made businesses to look at, hey, how really we need to kind of run the business. It is not about running business better. It is about running businesses in a very different way, right? I think right from diversification, right from looking at employees in a very different way, from giving them the safety, security part of it at work, the job security part of it. I think things have really changed a lot, right? It is very common for a private organization to do that, but what we saw was a government organization. How do they really adopt digital as a medium in which we could probably look at an end-to-end adoption of digital, which got translated into a benefit that a citizen would actually get, right? So what we will be talking about today in detail is how Chennai Corporation, I'm sure most of you would have seen the video that recently a national media, India Today, had released about how Chennai really was able to use digital as a platform to manage COVID better end to end, right? I think there are multiple factors to it, multiple reasons why Chennai was able to do it when compared to other large cities in India. How did Chennai really contain? Was a big news that came out, and we are so happy to share this part of the experience, we were to call it, from working with the Chennai Corporation or the government for last 400 days. And what I would do is I will pass on the floor to Ashwin from our team, and he can definitely take you through the great experience we had. And Ashwin, having been in the thick and thin of the technology, working to kind of customize this particular solution of ours to suit this particular COVID requirements was a great experience we all had, and we are happy to kind of share that experience. Ashwin, if you could take over from here, from the talking about the journey, will really great.
Sure. Thank you, Rahul. And எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். I'll try and mix a little with Tamil and English, right? So, Annamalai University Alumni Association Business Network, first a big thank you, okay, for inviting us. Ram, especially thanks to you, so that we could come and present our story, right? And how we were able to be a small pawn in helping government to manage the Chennai story, especially, right, in a very effective way so far. Touchwood will continue to do this well in the coming days, okay, and ensure the city is healthy again, and we're all back to our regular works. Right. So thank you. That first, I would like to take a moment to thank every healthcare worker, right? The frontline workers, fever survey workers, health inspectors, doctors, right? Even எல்லாருக்கும் first, I think we should extend a round of thank you, right? அவங்க யாரும் இல்லாம nurses, இவங்கெல்லாம் யாரும் இல்லாம ambulance drivers, இவங்களுக்கு தான் first, I think, special thanks for technology. Administration all comes next, right? I would also use this moment to specifically thank the Corporation of Chennai, okay, the current leaders there, the immediately past leaders who were associated in the previous year, right? Thanks to all their vision, thanks to all their support and guidance, right? Indian Council for Medical Research, those teams, right? இவங்க எல்லாரும் இல்லாம, அவங்க இன்புட்ஸ் இல்லாம, a system like this would not have been possible. Okay, first, so a big round of thank you to all of them. Okay, so just coming into the system and a little bit about how it happened, how it got transformed. I'll just keep it very brief in terms of how we got involved. Okay, it just so happened, or exactly almost around May, early March last year. Nanu Rahul, we had visited the Chennai Corporation for a different work. Appa we had put in a word saying, sir, engitta konjam technology irukku, COVID varudhu, in case ungalku edha digital help venumna, please let us know. Number city kaga we want to do some work. Okay, that never went anywhere. Okay, but it was our intention to go tell them we had something. We just gave our word number and came back. ஒரு நாளைக்கு திடீர்னு மே மாசத்துல வந்து ஒரு கால் வந்துச்சு. 8:30 மணிக்கு நைட் ராத்திரி ஃபோன் பண்ணி, இந்த ஷனோன், ஐ வாண்ட் யூ கைஸ் டு பி ஹியர் இன் கார்பரேஷன், வி ஹேவ் அ ப்ராப்ளம், வி வாண்ட் யுவர் சப்போர்ட். நாங்கள் எதிர்பார்க்கல. அந்த டைம்ல வந்து போலாமா, ஏன்னா லாக்டவுன் இருந்துச்சு. கேன் வி கோ தேர், சார் வர முடியாது சார், லாக்டவுன் சார்னா. கமிஷனர் கூப்பிடுறாரு, வாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொன்னாங்க. வி ஆக்சுவலி மேட் அவர் செல்ஃப் 8:45, 9 we were in corporation. First time I was surprised to know government officers work that late. Okay, this is my personal opinion. I've known of officers working very hard during tsunami and other periods, but this we got to see firsthand in person. People available and saying, hey, we have a problem with data. We need some help in kind of consolidating this better. We were able to put together something overnight. Okay, எதனால பண்ண முடிஞ்சதுன்னா, we already had something similar. We didn't do anything in healthcare, but we had a platform for logistics, okay, which dealt with similar kind of data and large informations, right? So we were like, maybe on the platform I எடுத்து கொஞ்சம் ஸ்லைட்டா மாடிஃபை பண்ணி ஒரு பேஸ் சிஸ்டம் இவங்களுக்கு இமீடியட்டா ஓவர் நைட் கேட்கறதுனால கொடுக்கலாம்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஆரம்பிச்சோம். அது பண்ணது என்ன ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா, it transformed into solving few other problems for the corporation, right? And the biggest of which we were able to solve, and till date, that's a testimony of the corporation being able to have access to instant data, was solving the problem of having data available to every corporation worker in every ward of Chennai, right? See, central governmentல இருந்து நிறைய டூல்ஸ் இருக்கு. ஆரோக்கிய சேத்து இருந்துச்சு. They created a platform for all districts to have information. ஸ்டேட்டுக்கு டேட்டா வந்துச்சு. யாரெல்லாம் டெஸ்ட் பண்ணாங்க, டெஸ்ட் பண்ணவங்களோட டேட்டா ஆன்லைன்ல வந்தது. Those were great initiatives by the central government. But once those initiatives were there, right, you take a city like Chennai. சென்னையில வந்து 15 zone இருக்கு. Most of you would be aware of it. Some of you may not be aware. But I thought I'll just share it because it will give you the scale at which Chennai operated. Every zone of Chennai is almost like the size of a district in any other part of Tamil Nadu, right? Because சென்னையில வந்து 70 லட்சம் மக்கள் இருக்காங்க, 7 million people, right? இதுல சென்னை வந்து 15 zone 200 வார்டு, right? 55,000 இருந்து 56,000 ஸ்ட்ரீட்ஸ் இருக்கு சென்னையில், ரைட்? இங்க வந்து எங்க கோவிட் இருக்கு, எப்படி நம்ம இந்த பேஷண்ட்ஸை மொபிலைஸ் பண்ணலாம், எப்படி ஸ்ப்ரெட்டை கண்டெயின் பண்ணலாம், how do we ensure that we are able to attend to every patient, right? These were the key things which the Corporation of Chennai and the doctor community, the management, everyone looked at to see how do we help Chennai as a large city, because inge vandu இன்னொரு challenge, as you all of you know, is the density of the population சென்னையில ரொம்ப ஜாஸ்தி. Because of that the spread ஆறதுக்கு ரொம்ப வாய்ப்பு ஜாஸ்தி. ஸோ இதை எப்படி கண்டெயின் பண்ணலான்ற பிக் சேலஞ்ச் ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது டேட்டா இல்லாம ஒன்றும் பண்ண முடியாதுன்றதை இமீடியட்டா ரியலைஸ் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. ஆனா இந்த டேட்டாவை எப்படி நம்ம கன்சியூம் பண்ண போறோம்? எக்ஸல் ஷீட்ல போட்டுட்டு இமெயில் அனுப்பிச்சு கன்சியூம் பண்ணலாமா? ஏன்னா உங்களுக்கு ஆன்லைன்ல எக்ஸல்ல வருது டேட்டா ஒரு சென்ட்ரல் கவர்மெண்ட் போர்ட்டல்ல இருந்து. பட் இதை ஒண்டி வச்சுட்டு நம்மளால மேனேஜ் பண்ண முடியுமா? முடியல. ஏன்னா வந்து இனிஷியல் டேஸ்ல அதான் நடந்துட்டு இருந்தது. It led to we reaching out a patient only 24 hours or sometimes even 2 days later. How do we speed this up ன்ற ஒரு பெரிய சேலஞ்ச் வரும்போது தான் வந்து we said, hey, let's look at a mechanism where as soon as we are aware that someone has turned positive, யாராவதற்கு பாசிட்டிவ் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா இம்மீடியட்டா அவங்க வீடு இருக்கிற ஏரியால இருக்கிற ஹெல்த் இன்ஸ்பெக்டருக்கும் ஹெல்த் டீமுக்கும் நோட்டிஃபை பண்ண முடியுமா? That was the first challenge which was taken up by the city, by the officials, and as with technology, it every solve பண்ணலாம், right? And when we were able to put together a basic mechanism to identify where this person is and reach that data to the inspector, right? We were able to solve the problem which took 24 hours to under 30 minutes, right? And இன்னொரு சேலஞ்ச் என்னன்னா, as all of you would be aware, data வந்து யாராவது டெஸ்ட் ஆயிட்டாங்க, பாசிட்டிவ் ஆயிட்டாங்கன்னா அவங்க டெஸ்ட் கொடுக்கறச்சியோ பாசிட்டிவ் இது பண்றச்சியோ பாசிட்டிவ் ஆனாங்க அந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கேட்டா ஓரளவுக்கு ஒரு பேனிக் இருக்கும். அவங்க இமீடியட்டா வந்து ஐயோ எனக்கு வந்து இந்த வியாதி வந்துடுச்சே, நான் என்ன ஆகும் தெரியலையே, நான் என்ன பண்ணணும்ன்ற ஒரு பேனிக் செட் ஆகிறதுக்குள்ள we wanted to make sure they can be given support immediately through the ground team, right? So the ground team first information வரணும், அந்த information enable பண்ணோம், which allowed us to go from 24-48 hour window to a extremely short window of 30 minutes. Most of the time is instantaneous because data வர அவங்களுக்கு தெரியுது இந்த ஏரியால அந்த அந்த பர்சன் இல்ல, அந்த நபர் இல்லைன்னா அவர் வேற எங்க போயிருக்காரு அதையும் கண்டுபிடிக்க ட்ரை பண்றோம். ஏன்னா they are able to call those people and find that information. இதை கண்டுபிடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து என்ன மாதிரி தேவைகள் இருக்கு, ஏன்னா இது வந்து ஒரு சின்ன டிஃபரன்ஸ் பிட்வீன் வாட் வி டிட் இன் தி ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வேவ் அண்ட் செகண்ட் வேவ். பட் எல்லாமே வாஸ் பியூர்லி பேஸ்ட் ஆன் டிஜிட்டல் டேட்டா அண்ட் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன். சார், I'll also look at a few questions on the way. Oh, sure. Right? So இந்த டேட்டா வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் ஃபோன் நம்பர் சம்டைம்ஸ் தப்பா வரலாம், அட்ரஸ் தப்பா இருக்கலாம். ஏன்னா கலெக்ட் பண்றவங்களும் ஒரு பேனிக்ல இருக்காங்க, ஒரு சோஷியல் டிஸ்டன்சிங் மெயின்டைன் பண்றாங்க, சொல்றவங்களும் ஒரு அர்ஜென்ட் அவசரத்துல சொல்றாங்க. அப்படி இருக்கிறச்ச டேட்டா தப்பா இருக்கு. அப்ப வீடு வீடா போய் இந்த இடத்துல இந்த நபர் இருக்காரா, அவருக்கு பாசிட்டிவ் ஆயிருக்கா, என்ன கண்டிஷன்ல இருக்காரு, இமீடியட் அர்ஜென்சி இருக்கா, இமீடியட் அர்ஜென்சி இருந்தா எந்த ஹாஸ்பிட்டலோ ஸ்கிரீனிங் சென்டர் கூட்டிட்டு போகலாம், அங்க போனா அவங்க என்ன நிலைமையில இருக்காங்க, ஓகே, அவங்க வந்து எக்ஸ்ரே எடுக்கிறதுல இருந்து ஆரம்பிச்சு பிளட் டெஸ்ட் எடுத்து இவங்களுக்கு அடுத்தது என்ன ஸ்டெப் எடுக்கலான்ற வரைக்கும் there are doctors available, there is care available, and this data is passed along in the platform. So one key metric which started as an initial mechanism to collect basic data led to how do you manage this transformation of a person from being positive till அவர் ரெக்கவர் ஆகிற வரைக்குமோ, ஆர் in the unfortunate scenario of someone passing away, எப்ப தவறி போகும்போது கோவிட் பாசிட்டிவா இல்லையா, இந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கலெக்ட் பண்ற வரைக்கும் everything got into the system. The other key thing which Chennai did, along with this practice was they took a lot of expert input, medical council input, எல்லாரோட input எடுத்து கான்டாக்ட் ட்ரேசிங்ன்ற கேள்விப்பட்டிருப்பீங்க, நிறைய பேர் கேள்விப்பட்டிருப்போம் கான்டாக்ட் ட்ரேசிங்ன்ற ஒரு மெக்கானிசம், ரைட்? சென்னை இஸ் ஒன் சிட்டி வேர் டுடே ஐ திங்க் சென்னை as you would know ஒரு 5 லட்சம் மேல கேசஸ் இருக்கு ஓவராலா, ரைட்? ஸ்டார்டிங் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வேவ் செகண்ட் வேவ் எல்லாம் சேர்த்து ஒரு 5 லட்சம் மேல கேஸ் இருக்கு. சென்னை இஸ் ஒன் சிட்டி வேர் we have over 40 lakh contacts, 4 மில்லியன் கான்டாக்ட்ஸ் சென்னையில ட்ரேஸ் பண்ணாங்க. எதனால ட்ரேஸ் பண்ண முடிஞ்சது? ஸோ தட் ஒரு இது ட்ரேஸ் பண்ண முடிஞ்சதுனால தான் எந்த இடத்துல ஸ்ப்ரெட் இருக்கு, எங்க வந்து அட்டென்ஷன் வேணும், ரைட்? எங்க வந்து டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிஸ் அடாப்ட் பண்ணணும், இதெல்லாம் சென்னை வாஸ் ஏபிள் டு டிசைட் ஒன்லி பியூர்லி பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் டேட்டா, ரைட்? இந்த டேட்டா கிரவுண்ட் லெவல் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் இருக்கிறதுனால சென்னை கார்பரேஷன் டிட் சம் பியூட்டிஃபுல் ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிஸ். they went into what is called as மைக்ரோ பிளானிங். மைக்ரோ பிளானிங்ல என்ன பண்ணாங்க? எந்த ஜோனு, எந்த வார்ட்ல, எந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட்ல வந்து ஒரு ஃபீவர் கேம்ப் நடத்தலாம்னு கண்டுபிடிச்சாங்க. இந்த ஃபீவர் கேம்ப்ல என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா மக்களுக்கு வந்து இட் ஸ்ப்ரெட் அவேர்னஸ் அபவுட் கோவிட். ஒன்று. ரெண்டாவது, அந்த ஏரியா இருக்கிற மக்கள் எல்லாரையும் வர சொல்லி இவங்களுக்கு யாருக்கெல்லாம் சிம்டம் இருக்கு, யாருக்கெல்லாம் ஃபீவர் இருக்கு, யாருக்கு ஜலதோஷம் இருக்கு, யாருக்கு காஃப் இருக்கு, இது எல்லாத்தையும் கண்டுபிடிச்சு இவங்களுக்கு கோமார்பிடிட்டி இருக்காவும் கண்டுபிடிச்சாங்க. இதை கண்டுபிடிச்சு யாருக்கெல்லாம் இமீடியட் அட்டென்ஷன் வேணுமோ அங்கேருந்தே டெஸ்டிங்க்கு கூப்பிட்டு போனாங்க. யாருக்கெல்லாம் வேற ஃபர்தர் சப்போர்ட் கொடுக்கணுமோ கொடுக்க முடிஞ்சது. ஒண்ணு. ரெண்டாவது என்ன பண்ணோம்? டோர் டு டோர் டெஸ்டிங் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. விச் இஸ் ஃபீவர் சர்வே ஒர்க்கர்ன்ற ஒரு வாலண்டியர்ஸை கூட்டிட்டு வந்து they were able to go every home and start measuring temperature for citizens. செகண்ட் வேவ்ல இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் ஜாஸ்தி பண்ணோம். we went into what is called as home triaging. I will come into that a little later, but I will just talk about the larger measures. ரைட்? இந்த ஃபீவர் கேம்ப்ஸ்ல இருந்து ஹாட்ஸ்பாட்ஸ் எடுக்க முடிஞ்சது. ஒரு நாளைக்கு பாத்தீங்கன்னா 400 கேம்ப்ஸ் நடக்குது எவ்ரிடே சென்னையில, ரைட்? ட்ரையாஜிங் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சோம். ட்ரையாஜிங்ல என்ன பண்ணோம்? ஃபீவர் சர்வே ஒர்க்கர் போயிட்டு வீட்டுல போய் டெம்பரேச்சர் செக் பண்ணாங்க. அதுல செக் பண்ணும்போது யாருக்காவது ஃபீவரிஷா இருக்கிற மாதிரி தெரிஞ்சதுன்னா அவங்களை இமீடியட்டா கூட்டிட்டு போய் டெஸ்ட் பண்றது. அவங்களுக்கு வந்து சோசியோ சைக்காலஜி சப்போர்ட்ஸ் கொடுத்தாங்க. போன் கால் சென்டர் செட் பண்ணி சென்னையில இருந்து த்ரூ த கால் சென்டர் எவ்ரி கான்டாக்ட் வாஸ் ரீச்ட், எவ்ரி பேஷண்ட் வாஸ் ரீச். அவங்களுக்கு வந்து சார் நீங்க வந்து ஐசோலேஷன்ல இருக்கீங்க, எப்படி இருக்கு உங்க மனநிலை, அதே மாதிரி பாசிட்டிவானவங்க வீட்டுல ஐசோலேஷன்ல இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கும் மனநிலை எப்படி இருக்குன்னு செக் பண்ணாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு யாருக்காவது வந்து கொஞ்சம் பேனிக் சினாரியோ இருக்கு, முடியலன்னு சொன்னாங்கன்னா இமீடியட்லா ஆம்புலன்ஸ் அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணி அவங்கள ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் ரஷ் பண்ற வரைக்கும் எவ்ரிதிங் வாஸ் கம்ப்ளீட்லி டேட்டா ட்ரிவன். இது வந்து டேட்டாவோ சிஸ்டமோ ஃபாலோ அப் பண்ண முடியலன்னா இது வந்து இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சப்போர்ட் கொடுக்கறதுக்கு சாத்தியமே இல்லை. தட் Chennai was able to do only because of having data. ரெண்டாவது என்ன பண்ணோம்? கோவிட் கேர் சென்டர்ஸ்னு இனிஷியலா கிரியேட் பண்ணாங்க. ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்ஸ், ஸ்கூல்ஸ், அந்தந்த ஏரியாஸ்ல வந்து கொஞ்சம் கவர்மெண்ட் ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் அண்ட் சம்டைம்ஸ் பிரைவேட் ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸும் எடுத்துட்டு அதை வந்து பெட்ஸ் போட்டுட்டு we created facilities. எதுக்குன்னா we realized that not every citizen had the ability to isolate himself at his house. அப்படின்னா can there be public locations where they can be provided facility, right? அங்கேருந்து வந்தது தான் கோவிட் கேர் சென்டர். அங்க வந்து all these centers were associated to a hospital. ஸோ அங்கேருந்து அந்த ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்ல இருக்க ஒரு டாக்டர், நர்ஸ், இவங்க எல்லாரும் அங்க வந்து இங்க பேஷண்ட்ஸ்க்கு மினிமம் பேசிக் கேர் கொடுத்து அவங்கள வந்து பார்த்துட்டு அவங்க ரெக்கவர் ஆகிற வரைக்கும் அவங்க பார்த்துருந்தாங்க. இதுக்கு நடுவில் வந்து இவங்க யாருக்காவது வந்து அடிஷ்னல் ஃபெசிலிட்டி தேவைப்பட்டா they were moved to the hospitals or a bigger facility where they could provide much closer medical attention. இது பண்ணோம். அதே மாதிரி வந்து ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் கம்யூனிட்டி மாதிரி கிரியேட் பண்ணி சர்வேலன்ஸ் கொண்டு வந்தோம். சர்வேலன்ஸ் எதுக்கு கிரியேட் பண்ணாங்கன்னா யாரெல்லாம் வந்து கோவிட் டெஸ்ட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்களோ, ஐசோலேஷன்ல இருக்காங்களோ அவங்க வந்து வீட்டை விட்டு வெளியில சுத்தக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு போலீஸோட ஹெல்ப்பும் கம்யூனிட்டி வாலண்டியர்ஸும் வச்சு ஃபோக்கஸ் குரூப்ஸ் கிரியேட் பண்ணி கண்டெய்ன்மெண்ட் ஜோன்ஸ்ல வந்து செக் பண்ணாங்க. இஃப் யூ ரிமெம்பர் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கண்டெய்ன்மெண்ட்ஸ் நம்ம இனிஷியலா ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது சென்னையிலையும் பேன் இண்டியாலையும் கண்டெய்ன்மெண்ட் வாஸ் லைக் ஃபுல் சிட்டியை க்ளோஸ் பண்ணுங்க அப்படின்னு இருந்தது. ஸ்லோவா அது ரெடியூஸ் ஆகி இட் கேம் டவுன் டு சிங்கிள் ஸ்ட்ரீட்ஸ் ஆர் சிங்கிள் ஹவுசஸ். இந்த தடவைலாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா செகண்ட் வேவ்ல இட் இஸ் ஒன்லி a single building or block or small areas which are contained. The reason Chennai could do that very, very effectively is because Chennai mapped every city street. Okay, over 55,000 streets irukku Chennai la. Every street is mapped. Today Chennai is the only city which can tell எந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட்ஸ்ல வந்து 2 கேஸ் இருக்கு, எந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட்ல 3 கேஸ் இருக்கு, எந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட்ஸ்ல 10 கேஸ் இருக்கு. இது ஆக்டிவ் கேஸ் சொல்ல முடியும். அன்னி தேதியில ஒரு நாளைக்கு வர கேசஸ்ல எந்தெந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட்ல அட்டென்ஷன் கொடுக்கணும், எந்தெந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட்ஸ்ல வந்து ப்ராப்ளமேட்டிக்கா இருக்கு, ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஜாஸ்தி ஆகிற மாதிரி இருக்குன்னு எடுக்க முடியாது சென்னையில பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் டேட்டா. All of this transformation took place only because of data, and in this data, which is nothing but a digital transformation, allowed Chennai to be able to re-strategize, replan, relook at எந்த கம்யூனிட்டி, எந்த ஏரியா வித்தின் சென்னை, எந்த மாதிரி ஏஜ் குரூப்ஸ்க்கு நம்ம அட்டென்ஷன் கொடுக்கணும், ஸ்ப்ரெட் எங்க நடக்குது. சிம்பிள் எக்ஸாம்பிள்னா வேவ் 1ல வந்து the spread was more in our ராயபுரம்ஸ் அண்ட் தண்டையார்பேட்ஸ் அண்ட் நார்த் சென்னை, ரைட்? அங்க வந்து ரொம்ப டென்சிட்டி ஜாஸ்தி, அங்க ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஜாஸ்தியா இருந்தது. பட் இந்த தடவை பாத்தீங்கன்னா the entire spread is more like central and south Chennai, right? Why? High rise buildings, மிடில் கிளாஸ், அப்பர் மிடில் கிளாஸ், அந்த கம்யூனிட்டிஸ்ல வந்து ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஜாஸ்தியா இருக்கு, right? So they are trying to focus purely based on data to see எப்படி வந்து இதை பெட்டரா கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணலாம், எப்படி கண்டெயின் பண்ணலாம், என்ன மாதிரி சப்போர்ட் கொடுத்தா மக்களுக்கு வந்து we can help them recover out of this, at the same time prepare the city to open up as early as possible, right? All driven by data. Now the other fantastic two other initiatives I wanted to talk about from a Chennai standpoint, which was again data driven, was எல்லாரும் நடுவில் ஒரு பீரியட்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா பெட் கிடைக்கல, பெட்டுக்கு ஒரு சேலஞ்சஸ் இருந்துச்சு, ரைட்? ஸோ சென்னை இன்ஸ்டன்ட்லி ஸ்டார்டட் கிரியேட்டிங் பேஸ்ட் ஆன் டேட்டா additional hospitals or converted some of its COVID care centers with oxygen facility, right? இது ஒன்று பண்ணாங்க. Plus based on spread எப்படி இருக்கும், growth எப்படி இருக்கும்னு பேஸ் பண்ணி சென்னை started creating additional oxygen facilities. At some point we today have over 20,000 beds with oxygen capability within the city. Touch wood, there should be no third wave, but in the event அந்த மாதிரி ஏதாவது வந்தாலும் இந்த மாதிரி ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸை ரீயூஸ் பண்றதுக்கு இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஹஸ் ஆல்ரெடி பீன் கிரியேட்டட். ஒன்று. ரெண்டாவது, ஆம்புலன்ஸ்க்கு நிறைய தட்டுப்பாடு வந்துச்சு. தட்டுப்பாடு எதனால வந்ததுன்னா there was a lot of panic in among citizens. ஆக்சிஜன் டிராப் ஆகும் போது இந்த செகண்ட் வேவ்ல ரொம்ப கன்சர்ன்ஸ் இருந்தது. பெட் கிடைக்கல, ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் கிடைக்கல, ஆம்புலன்ஸ் கிடைக்கலன்ற ஒரு சேலஞ்ச் வரும்போது both the city as well as the government took initiatives to create like emergency numbers, facilities, right? சென்னை ஒரு வித்தியாசமா ஒன்று கிரியேட் பண்ணாங்க. அவங்க வந்து they looked at models in couple of other cities like Bombay especially, and some work which was done in Bangalore. அதை பேஸ் பண்ணி நாங்க வந்து ஒரு 251 private cabs வந்து ஹையர் பண்ணி we created what is called as special ambulances. இந்த ஆம்புலன்சஸ் வந்து பேஸ்ட் ஆன் எந்த ஜோன் ஆஃப் சென்னையில கேசஸ் இருக்கோ அங்கங்க ஸ்ப்ரெட் பண்ணி விட்டோம். ஸ்ப்ரெட் பண்ணி விட்டும் போது என்ன ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா they were able to have immediate attention or have a vehicle available in case there is an emergency and you don't need to necessarily wait for an ambulance always. ஒன்று. ரெண்டாவது என்ன பண்ணாங்க, சென்னை created what is called as oxygen parlors. எதுக்காக ஆக்சிஜன் பார்லர்? the general direction or directive நம்ம நியூஸ்ல கேட்கிறோம், டிவில கேட்கிறோம், படிக்கிறோம். அது வந்து 94க்கு கீழே ஆக்சிஜன் இருந்தா உங்களுக்கு அட்டென்ஷன் தேவைன்றது வந்து ஒரு ஜெனரல் டைரக்ஷன் இருக்கு. எல்லாருக்கும் அது தேவையா? நாட் நெசசரி. பட் 94க்கு கீழே போனாலே மக்களுக்கு நடுவில் ஐயோ ஆக்சிஜன் குறையுதே, இதுக்கு வந்து எனக்கு ஏதாவது அட்டென்ஷன் வேணுமேனு ஒரு பேனிக் வாஸ் செட்டிங் இன். அந்த பேனிக் வரும்போது ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் டிராப்ஸ் ஃபர்தர். இன் ஆர்டர் டு ஹெல்ப் all those people who wanted immediate need to oxygen or immediate requirement for oxygen, we created mobile units as well as oxygen parlors in every zone of Chennai, and people were taken through these ambulances to those oxygen parlors and provided immediate care. அங்க டாக்டர்ஸ் பார்த்துட்டு இவங்க ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் இம்ப்ரூவ் ஆயிடுச்சு, வீட்டுக்கு போகலான்னா கூட்டிட்டு போனாங்க, வீட்டுக்கு அனுப்பப்பட்டாங்க. இல்லாட்டி எங்களுக்கு அடிஷ்னல் சப்போர்ட் வேணும்னா ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் கூட்டிட்டு போனாங்க, ரைட்? இந்த மாதிரி ஃபெசிலிட்டி எல்லாமே பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் டேட்டா சிட்டி வாஸ் ஏபிள் டு ஹேண்டில் திஸ் எக்ஸ்ட்ரீம்லி எஃபெக்டிவ்லி. இன்னைக்கு நீங்க வந்து லாக்டவுனோட இம்பாக்ட் இருக்கிறதுனால கேசஸும் கம்மியாயிடுது, பிளஸ் டேட்டா ட்ரிவன் ஸ்டெப்ஸ் அண்ட் மெஷர்ஸ் எடுத்ததுனால சென்னையோட நம்பர்ஸ் ஹவ் கான் டவுன். Similar measures are already now being taken pan Tamil Nadu as a matter of fact in order to replicate what Chennai had done as different models, right, to ensure numbers can be brought down. Rahul, you want to go to the next one? So this is just a reflection for you in terms of numbers, right? In the 5 lakham cases Chennai la vandadilla pathina ஆல்மோஸ்ட் ஒரு 9,000 கேஸ் தான் வந்து ஆக்டிவ் கேசஸா இருக்கு. டெத்ஸ், எஸ், அன்பார்ச்சுனேட்லி we lost a lot of brothers and sisters and elderly people, right? But ஒரு விஷயம் நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Chennai has never decreased the number of tests which is done in Chennai. At any day, almost I think effectively, Rahul, if I'm not mistaken, it is what 30,000 or 30,000
Yeah,
or 40,000.
it is given in the slide. It is 30,163 or above 30,000 on it.
So anywhere from 28,000 to nothing less than 32,000 tests are conducted every day in Chennai. Wave 1 la we were doing close to about 14,000, 15,000 tests. But even between wave 1 and wave 2, we never decreased that number. அதுவும் wave 2 வரும்போது we increased it, even double the number of tests we were conducting to almost 30,000 tests, right? At one point, our testing positivity rates were quite high. If measures, controls எல்லாம் போட்டதுல we were able to now bring it down to about 4-5%. இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் ஹையா தான் இருக்கு. They want to reduce it further, obviously, but that is some numbers which are available. இப்போ வந்து மெயினா பாத்தீங்கன்னா the red zones, just one slide back, you see the red zones, that is all purely central and parts of South Chennai, right, where the spread is. Previously the upper region is where the cover was, right? But this is how Chennai was able to use data to better manage. And the other worrying factor, but I think the good part is youngsters recover faster, right? If you notice, the spread was more amongst youngsters, right? Between 22 to 50, the spread was higher, okay? And the elderly community, la spread kammiyachu. Because the vaccination we did starting from late February, early March la ஆரம்பிச்சு மெயினா வந்து elderly people கவர் பண்ணதனால elderly peopleக்கு வேக்சின்னால வராதுன்னு சொல்ல முடியாது, வேக்சின்னால வரும். மார்பிலிட்டி ரேஷியோ எல்லாம் ரொம்ப கம்மியா இருந்தது. elderly people க்கு better protection கிடைச்சது because of the vaccination. So going forward, I think with better vaccination strategies, the spread can be much further contained, and I think we can go towards the pre-COVID era to a large extent. Okay, these are just some further numbers in terms of percentages of cases and active case percentage and recoveries and death, right? So one good part is, excepting a few regions or few areas where death percentages went to about close to about 2%, everywhere else it was very much under 1.5%, which is still high, right? But relative to the large number of cases, and number of recovered was so much higher because of the interventions, the medical community support, activities done, சின்ன சின்ன விஷயங்கள் நம்ம பண்ணது, கபசுர குடிநீர் and all of that, right, that really help to improve immunity and help people recover out of this. Go ahead, Rahul, next one. And these are some metrics or an average number of cases, எவ்வளவு ஆறுது, எப்படி கம்மியாயின்னு இருக்கு, that we are seeing a drop in the total number of cases, right? So which is a great thing. எப்படி சென்னை எங்க இருந்தோம் எங்க வந்துன்னு இருக்கோம், எப்படி ரெடியூஸ் ஆகுது. So these are some metrics from the city has shared, right? Vaccination, we are increasing. We are still at like 21 lakhs to 30 lakh people, right? But I think we have a long way to go as a city, right? Because we are overall 70 lakhs, we're still only at 20 and increase. I think there are some measures being taken to further do this. I'm not a government representative, by the way, but happy to say that we've seen government take very active steps, right? And the government hospitals do some fabulous work, right? So since we had personal experience, we were able to see or help people, right? How some of these hospitals were able to help citizens at the time of crisis, right? So we are able to give testimony about the effort taken by our government, our corporation, and our government hospitals, right? So that's the reason we are able to அவங்கள ரொம்ப அவங்க பண்ற எஃபர்ட்ஸ் ரொம்ப பெருமையா பேச முடியாது. ஸோ தேங்க்ஸ் டு தெம். ஸோ 1 and 2 ஓட பெரிய டிஃபரன்ஸ்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, ரைட், நம்ம ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் COVID-1 வரும்போது நம்ம நிறைய பேருக்கு வந்து இமீடியட் சர்க்கிள் அவ்வளோ கேசஸ் தெரியல, ரைட்? we were all hearing about cases happening in distant places. I mean, not for everyone. The average எடுத்தோம்னா நம்ம immediate circle இல்ல. COVID-2 வரும்போது நிறைய immediate circle cases spread ஆச்சு. ஒண்ணு டார்கெட் குரூப்ஸ் வந்து மோர் லைக் 30 to 50 நம்ம பேசின மாதிரி இருந்தது. ஏசிம்டமேட்டிக்ன்றது நிறைய இருந்தது கோவிட் இதுல. இங்கேயும் கிளஸ்டர்ஸ் இருந்துச்சு. பட் ஆனா இங்க வந்து மெஷர்ஸ் வேர் மோர் இன் டர்ம்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஃபீவர் நிறைய இருந்தது, காஃபிங் நிறைய இருந்தது. ஃபீவர் காஃப் மெயினா வச்சு சிம்டம்ஸா வச்சு யூஆர் ஏபிள் டு டிடெக்ட் யாருக்கு அட்டென்ஷன் தேவைப்பட்டதுன்னு. ரைட், வேரியன்ட்ஸ் கொஞ்சம் ஜாஸ்தி ஆச்சு COVID-2ல, எஸ்பெஷலி திஸ் ஹோல் B167 வேரியன்ட் which is the current one trending in India, right? That was a super spreader in terms of number of people it could impact, right? அது ஒன்னு இருந்தது. COVID-1ல ஷீல்டே இல்ல, வேக்சினேஷன் இல்ல, ஒன்னும் இல்ல, some basic measures were taken. But COVID-2 போது at least vaccination was available, though limited. It was available to protect or start providing protection to some extent, right? ப்ரோட்டோகால்ஸ்ன்றது வந்து கோவிட் ப்ரோட்டோகால்ஸ்லாம் வந்து 1 போது தான் டிஃபைன் பண்ணோம், என்ன பண்ணலாம், ஹவு இட் கேன் பி மேனேஜ்ட் அண்ட் ஆல் ஆஃப் தட். அண்ட் 2 போது we were able to better implement some of those protocol, improvise that protocol purely based on data. Effectiveness of the protocol were groundல visible ஆச்சு டேட்டானால. அதுக்கு ஏத்த மாதிரி protocols were tweaked, improved. The ground level staff were provided insights, data to manage things more better, right? I will go back to the same point which I started with, saying support by the ground team, ability to have them access to digital information, right? Help them transform and go home on a day-to-day basis, right? That was one. Second, அந்த ஹியூமன் டச் கொடுக்க முடிஞ்சது பிகாஸ் அவங்களுக்கு ஆல்ரெடி டேட்டா இருந்தது, யார் கேஸ்னு தெரியும், யார் பேஷண்ட்னு தெரியும், அவங்களுக்கு என்ன மாதிரி சப்போர்ட் வேணும்னு தெரியும். அதனால பெட்டர் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் இருக்கிறதுனால we were able to share. நம்பர் ஆஃப் ஹாஸ்பிட்டலைசேஷன் டேஸ் குறைஞ்சிச்சு. முன்னாடி வந்து ரைட், தட் வாஸ் அ பிக் சேஞ்ச். ப்ரீவியஸ் டேல வந்து பெட்ஸ் நிறைய வேக்கண்டா இருந்தது, இந்த தடவை வந்து பெட்ஸ் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆச்சு. ஓகே, பட் மெக்கானிசம்ஸ் யாருக்கு தேவைப்பட்டதோ அவங்களுக்கு கொண்டு ஹாஸ்பிட்டலைசேஷன் பண்ணியும், தேவைப்படாதவங்களுக்கு வீட்லயே இருந்து வைத்தியம் செய்யற மாதிரியும் ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் கிரியேட் பண்ண முடிஞ்சது. போன தடவை வந்து அது பண்ண முடியல பிகாஸ் அப்போ அவ்வளோ டேட்டா இல்லை. இந்த தடவை அந்த டேட்டானால அது பண்ண முடிஞ்சது. ஐசோலேஷன் பீரியட் பாத்தீங்கன்னா முனிஷியலா வந்து 14 days மினிமம் ஐசோலேஷன் இருந்தது. அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு 14 days ஆஃப் குவாரண்டைன் சொல்லிட்டு எஃபெக்டிவ்லி 1 மாசம் இருந்தது. இப்போ வந்து செகண்ட் வேவ்ல வந்து 10 days ஆஃப் ஐசோலேஷன் and further recommended for another 7 days to 14 days of quarantine just for recovery and healing mechanism க்கு வந்துட்டோம். effectively 7 days, and first 7 daysல effectively manage ஆகி உங்களுக்கு subsequent 4-5 days அப்புறம் fever இல்ல, cough கொஞ்சம் reduce ஆக ஆரம்பிச்சிச்சுன்னா you are in the recovery stage of COVID. Only for scenarios or cases where people or citizens experiencing after 3-4 days continuous fever, immediate medical attention is required. If not, everyone else will automatically recover out of COVID. Yes, there are some post-COVID scenarios, some conditions and support which is required, but that is not going to be that is something which can be provided over time, right? And support mechanisms are available for that as compared to the first 3-4 days of having COVID, right? So these are general practices. யாராவது வேக்சின் போடாம இருந்தீங்கன்னா தயவு செஞ்சு ப்ளீஸ் போடுங்க. I had 2 of my vaccines. Okay, I will tell you with personal experience that like many of you would have lost friends and family members. I also lost a few, and I was in between all of them during one such incident a few weeks back. But it is the vaccination which allowed me, and the mask and simple basic hygiene of washing the hand often allowed me not to get not get this virus so far, right? And we've been on the road ever since the first wave till such date, right? Working with the ground teams, working with the corporation, been always outside, right? But being able to protect with these basic measures, right, has allowed us to stay away from stay away from contracting this virus, right? And kind of lead a healthy life. So just basic measures can go a long way in protecting all of us. And yeah, stay safe, stay vaccinated.
I think one more point I want to leave it at the end of this session is that we have seen a lot of ups and downs, right? Personally, each one of us would have experienced a lot of ups and downs. The businesses have experienced a lot of ups and downs. Evident that some vertical took off, some vertical actually declined in terms of the performance and stuff. We saw some of the big brands going out of this existence. I think all of this really send out a very clear message, right? I think it is important to really look at what is coming our way in a very positive way. I think that is an important aspect that to all that we need to stay positive, really help each other. I think there were a lot of amazing stories of humanity, right, that we saw during the COVID. I'm sure Tamil Nadu or rather India has seen a lot of such humanity stories in every crisis, whether it is a tsunami, whether it is an earthquake or anything. We have seen a lot of humanity. I think here, I think we've seen a lot of passionate people. There was a lot of passion, especially to the doctors and the nursing staffs and all of them. And there was a lot of compassion also, right? A lot of NGOs also came forward, try to help the local communities. There were families providing free food, institutions providing free food for COVID patients. I think it is important that we, from a business community standpoint, it is important to really take our employees and communities along with us, and really look at the people around us and say, hey, okay, how can we really help? It could be a business helping another business. It could be a bigger business that is taking off today, could look at businesses which are taking a hit and really helping each other, right? On that note, there is also a big question that would come in the minds of the people, right? Is a third wave going to come, right? How are we prepared for the third wave? It might be a very big question that would come in. I think the simple answer, I think history also answers that, be it the Spanish flu or anything. I think any kind of a pandemic goes through a lot of waves. I think I'm pretty much sure, even if the third wave comes in, I think as a community, as a government, this one, I think we are better prepared now with a lot of awareness how to fight this particular deadly virus. I think information system is playing a very, very important role that will really help. Vaccination has been never in the history. Clinical trials have been so fast, and we've got a vaccine approved, and I think that has really given us that strength, or I would say a bulletproof jacket for all of us to wear and say, okay, we could definitely face this COVID. But at the same time, we cannot be complacent of that, okay, the wave one is over. It was 60 plus target, mid 20 to 50 target in wave two. But wave three, we are also need to kind of realize that the under 18 crowd is still not vaccinated. I think that's an important 40 to 45 crores of a population that we have. I think we should definitely be very, very careful, still follow the COVID appropriate rules, regulations, and protocols. And it is only in each one of our hands to really follow these and also create the awareness in our communities, in our businesses, for people to be safe, and definitely look at opportunities, think out of the box. How do we innovate ourselves with different ideas to continue the business and also constantly help communities? Could be an important aspect that we all probably should think. And I'm sure Ashwin and I were really surprised by the preparedness that the government is already doing for the third wave, or to be prepared for any such pandemic in future. I think such integrated platforms and an approach on a process would really make people face any such pandemic in the future. So I think with that thought process, we want to kind of say thank you again for this opportunity, and we would be really happy to answer any questions on this particular thing.
There was one question, Rahul. I just thought I'll just respond to Mr. Vishwanathan sir had asked a question saying, why did government not involve private sector? Sir, we are a testimony of government involving private sector, right? And we've also seen other industries, companies coming and helping the city, right? And I think they're all kind of going through as different groups. I know the Rotary is helping in a big way. Lions Club is helping. There are different communities, groups going out and reaching out to the government, right, and trying to provide their support. And government is also looking forward to anyone coming and trying to give support, right, and see how effectively it can be leveraged. We would also love to share that while we were providing the platform and helping support, we were aware of many corporates, including I think the likes of Cognizant, who provided their staff to be able to do some contact tracing help, right? People who had time, they pitched in time. So different mechanisms came into play as part of this larger initiative to help as a community to provide support and augment the government's effort. So yes, I think private was involved, but I'm pretty sure I think more support can be given.
Thank you very much, Rahul and Ashwin, for a wonderful presentation. Actually, your presentation gave us a very good perspective of what the government has been doing. And as a software implementation company in the ERP space, I can tell that at the end of the day, the end user has to have the data, and the key element of any implementation is the focus on the end user. I think the corporation and your team have done it very, very well. And having said that, there has to be a management conviction for implementing any solution, and hats off to Greater Corporation of Chennai to have implemented such a nice solution and going forward being prepared also for it. I would request our coordinator from Pondicherry, Prabhakar, to moderate and take up the questions and take it to the speaker. Prabhakar also incidentally is in the healthcare space in the Pondicherry government. Prabhakar, you can unmute.
Let me thank Mr. Rahul Ganapathy and Mr. Ashwin Desikan for this very informative and wonderful presentation on the impact of COVID-19, how COVID-19 really gave an impact with respect to the digital transformation, and specifically with respect to this pandemic fight. It had been really interesting, and it's always a big sort of a thrill to work with numbers, with logics, and with systems. And I'm sure that you people had a very good sort of work with Greater Corporation of Chennai, and the sort of experience you shared with them, we were able to get a gist of the works that had been going on with Tamil Nadu government. And we were, as Mr. Gopi told, I think we are taking on very good information on the work going on in this particular platform. Thank you so much, Mr. Rahul and Mr. Ashwin. And sir, can you unmute Mr. G.S. Vishwanath, sir? He wanted to have a direct question with the guest speakers. Mr. Vishwanathan, sir, over to you.
Yeah, he's unmuted.
The question I want to ask is, I found it very strange that during this entire COVID pandemic episode, private sector was not involved. The people taking decisions are only government. How can they exclude private sector from taking in the decision-making process? After all, you do think Murugappa or a TVS or, they cannot take better decision than the government officials? Why they were not involved? They are kept out. Somebody takes decisions on lockdown and things like that. I mean, do you not think mostly private sector people are affected and the government is taking all the decisions? Doesn't it look very strange when we talk of privatization and opening up the economy and things like that? My thinking has been, was it a good idea to lock down? I would have preferred lock in. Ask private sector to lock in their employees. I mean, you look at a mess today. Many MSMEs are going to be dead. Many businesses are gone. because people who are getting monthly salaries were taking decisions of people who are not getting any money at all. Is it fair? That is my question.
Sir, great questions. I'm pretty sure the government looked in many of these factors or considered many of these factors, right? But when it came to public health, they had to look at the larger community at large, right? And that was one of the reasons they reached out to continuous processing industries, right? Gave them mechanisms to keep their employees. I'm aware of industries which were open even during the pandemic, right? Who were allowed or given special permission or special passes to continue operating because that had a larger impact on the not just the business but how they could provide support right globally. So government had to take decisions. I can only talk as a private citizen because I have no influence on what government decision the government makes, right? But I can tell you just with information we were privy to in terms of being part of providing data and part of some of these discussions, right? We could see firsthand that they had to take decisions on behalf of every citizen, what could help the community at large. Yes, it certainly did impact businesses. It certainly impacted MSMEs. It impacted a lot of industries, right? Could provide because initially, as you would know, though Tamil Nadu had, I would say, far better public health and infrastructure, right, compared to rest of the country or even the South having that. They learned from what Kerala had done during the Nipah virus, right? They learned or put mechanisms or procedures in place, learning from the previous such epidemics, right? They tried to use that and dynamically improve based on information available on a day-to-day basis. Some of the things which were available from earlier times were not very useful because when citizens couldn't do their part, when asked to stay home and people kind of did not really care about some of those measures, right? Then government had to take slightly more stricter actions. So even if you look this time around second wave, there is a lockdown, but it is a far lesser lockdown in terms of strictness or enforcement as compared to the previous times. The reason they were able to do this is because of data, information available, how to manage things better or contain. Right? See, classic example would be the very first wave when there was COVID, you would have an aluminum tin sheet in front of your house, basically kind of blocking your entire way to stop people from running away. Right? People still managed to get out of all of that. Right? We have seen classic cases like that. There will be a cover. People found a way to put a hole on the other side and get out. Right? But this time around, no such measures were taken because we found out that, hey, none of that is going to help. It is more in terms of giving right information, having better insights, better control that we will be able to effectively manage that. I completely hear you, sir, in terms of the challenges some of these industries face. It is unfortunate, but I think all of us are in it together to see how we can grow from here.
I don't see any other questions in the chat box.
Ravi here. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. A great presentation by both of you. Wonderful and proud to know that a Chennai-based company has led the way in the digital transformation. And this came up even in the India Today sometime back, saying it's a role model path taken by Chennai Corporation. So I know this question is perhaps more for medical fraternity, but since some of you touched upon, I think Rahul touched upon or so in the earlier part of his updates, the fact that this time the pandemic has hit more of southern and central Chennai compared to the northern Chennai that happened in wave 1. I remember seeing even in Mumbai, perhaps Dharavi was not as affected as the first wave now, and the other affluent, apartments and so on, people living in high-rise buildings and so on. So is the data that you guys have, because data is a new oil today, right? That showing anything sort of, did Chennai Corporation or, perhaps Chennai is working, show that there is a herd immunity in northern Chennai this time that prevented the positivity to be lower? Any thoughts around it? If it's not the right question, we can drop it.
No, certainly, sir. There is certainly some amount of herd immunity. Second, that is one great reason which it happened, right? Second is, since the North Chennai has experienced this better, right? Even the vaccination drives in North Chennai has actually been quite good.
Okay.
Some of the zones in North Chennai, they were able to go door to door, home to home, try and get increase the vaccination drives in those localities, right? Unfortunately, because of certain incidents which happened, all of us are aware of certain celebrities losing the vaccine, right? That led to some
Hesitance.
apprehensions.
Yeah.
Correct. Some resistance in community to come out and vaccinate. But I think people are slowly starting to understand that that is basically the only shield available at this point in time, right? But apart from that, because if you look from a medication standpoint, honestly, there is no medication, right? You're giving...
Understood. So my only point is the so-called herd immunity, has it set in North Chennai for the cases to be lower was the question. So the answer seems to be yes.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you. A great presentation, guys, once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Please unmute and you can post your question directly to the guest speakers, please.
The reason that there are not many questions stands testimony for the excellent presentation by Rahul and
Ashwin
Ashwin.
Kumar and Sarvi posted some.
Yeah, I think HPSB. I think he posted a
Nice presentation. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to know, like, what are the barriers that usually block the path of this transformation, or what are all the barriers you had it during the course of your work?
I think I lost a part of that question.
So Ashwin, I think the question is, what were the barriers while the implementations of such a system was done generally, and
Sure.
specific barriers that we faced during the implementation?
Sure, I can quickly say a few things, and the very first one is change management. Okay, any transformation, as you would know, is purely about change management. How you are able to affect that change, ensure that the change is percolated down to the lowest person who is going to use your system, and be consistent with that person across a period of time to ensure that the change has actually happened. A classic example is, they also kind of jokingly say this: the testimony to this process working in Chennai is because for 400 days we've got a system to work. In government parlance, getting a system to be up and running for a long period of time is a very difficult activity, right? And every field worker relying on a system on a day-to-day basis, and we getting calls saying if a system is clearly says that they were able to see value in what they received, right? And it came down because of two factors. One is the management, the health officers, all the top brasses from the government side embracing the system, encouraging each and every one within the lowest level officer, right, and health inspector to use it, to encouraging them, appreciating them. They even went to the extent of congratulating them, right, rewarding them when they made effective use of this data, right, and come up with beautiful ideas and measures. Some of these ground level activities, if you know what we spoke about, right, came as ideas actually from the ground rather than from the top, right? And that is testimony to the fact that the ground itself is looking at its data and trying to investigate. It's almost a competition for them to say that, hey, my streets have less number of cases, right? That is the kind of work people are doing ground level. So as I said, larger answer is change management, right? And if all of you are being leaders, right, and you want to affect any digital transformation, empowering the lower level, ensuring you are giving support to the middle management. This is a typical challenge in any digital transformation, where the middle management always feels left out, because the top wants the change, bottom is happy to embrace the change because they want to prove to the world that, or to the management, that they are happy to take. Management generally feels that, hey, this may affect my work. Classic example is, anytime you want to get out of paper, right? We've seen this in other activity, even in the logistics space, where you want to get out of paper and you want to kind of bring in digital technology, right? Typically, the paper sits in the middle office, right? but encouraging the middle office to know that, hey, if you're able to get out of paper and help either ways, both your partners, vendors, people using that, right, and reduce that, it will be a big transformation for an organization after it becomes a habit.
And one another important barrier, I wouldn't say barrier, is that the nature of this virus also kept on changing from wave 1 to wave 2. So the COVID protocols, the regulations that were also kind of, whether it is the treatment protocol or whether it is the isolation protocol, whom should we kind of take for home isolation and all of that also kept changing. So from a system implementation standpoint, we were also really looking at how flexible the system is to really accommodate different changes, whether it's a rule change in terms of the workflow, whether it is the logics that were to be used in terms of determining which is the containment zone, non-containment zone and stuff. I think those also really kept on changing, and the reporting structure also kept on changing, right? Today, this week, we might be worried about vaccination. The next week, we might be worried about fever camps. 2 weeks down the lane, what is the doubling rate at which the virus is actually going in the city or a particular street or a zone? Really also kind of made our teams to think, okay, we need to really be flexible to kind of customize this as per the changing dynamics of this whole virus. That's again a biggest, I wouldn't call it a barrier, but from a general software implementation standpoint, it could probably consider as a good practice that one should take, especially because here we do not have the flexibility of time to put it in a test version and test it out for 3 weeks and 4 weeks and then roll out, because it was almost instant production that happened from the time of a particular change in the system. So that really was another big challenge internally. I think our team stepped up at the right time to kind of deliver that without any issues. So I think that was a biggest learning on how to get a stable, secure, and a scalable system in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question posted by Mr. Varadarajan to the guest speakers. How soon do you think, based on data available, that Tamil Nadu or Chennai or rest of the country can be vaccinated? What's needed? Let me complete it. What's needed to fast track and reach it to ground level better?
I think from a city standpoint or from a state standpoint, I think there are multiple initiatives taken by different section of the communities today. As Ashwin said, you have a lot of these NGOs and clubs like the Rotary Lions Club and all of them really organizing vaccination camps in mass scale on one end. Large organizations, IT organizations, manufacturing organizations have taken the responsibility on them to get their employees and their families vaccinated. I think that is going to be an important step in the next 1 or 2 months to get mass amount of vaccination done in this. The other thing is, I think the availability of vaccine as such is an important driver that we need to really look at. Where we need to, I think with procurements coming in directly, which are enabled, international vaccines and Sputnik and other things coming into the use, I think it is definitely going to accelerate the vaccination. I think before the third wave, if at all, we hope and pray it doesn't come. But I think a major section of the population, I think, will get vaccinated, and then I think. Chennai is about 55% vaccinated from an adult population perspective as we actually speak. Next 2 months is critical. I think June, July would be a very good time frame that we can look at to get maximum percentage of this thing vaccinated. I think that's an important thing to look at.
One point I would like to just add here is any large industry, anyone having a sizable population, you'd like to get your staff as well as maybe extend it to the family members of staff. I think certainly they can reach out to the government. Government is happy to kind of to listen to organizations who want to run these drives, right, and facilitate vaccines being available to run these campaigns, because it's an important measure. They are having some nodal officers for this. So Rahul, I think you can share that information once it becomes available. That could be a great initiative for industries.
Thanks, Rahul, and thanks, Mr. Ashwin. And the next question is from Mr. Sarathi. Is a strategy followed in Chennai to trace the COVID cases followed or implemented in other cities of Tamil Nadu? If no, why?
So off late, so two things which has happened, as you would note, sir. In the first wave, it was pretty much a Chennai story, right? Though other districts had cases, right? They were not as big or as high as Chennai. But unfortunately, the second wave right now, Chennai has now come under control, right? But whereas are having the most number of cases, right? Now, what has happened is the officers who were posted in Chennai during the first wave and part of second wave are all being put as nodal officers or in charges in each of those other districts slowly, right? And they're all implementing measures which was followed in Chennai, right, in a similar strategy, right? And that is going to lead to reduction of these cases in the coming days and weeks. So that is an activity which has already started. And the Department of Health within Tamil Nadu itself is also looking at other mechanisms which are available in public health and especially measures which they do during epidemics and pandemics, right? Including symptoms tracing and all of that are measures which are actually started and being carried out every village and block level.
Thank you. Another question from Mr. Batu. He asks for any agriculture success stories, like you quoted your experiences with respect to this pandemic fight.
Sure.
Any stories with respect to agriculture?
We recently, as an organization, won a hackathon from Google and Hindustan Unilever, right? It's a virtual hackathon because we couldn't all participate, but it was a 72-hour hackathon of trying to find out in terms of our co-create technology in order to see how we could help the farming community at large, right? So one of the things we did as part of that initiative and which led to us winning and now in the process of trying to kind of take it to the market is ability to look at farming as a digital data, right? There's been many initiatives which has been taken. There are so many such startups available in India today who wants to focus on farming. We were trying to see how we could, one, use our larger digital platform on one side and our ability to work on sensors and different data sets and data modeling as another scenario, right? We're trying to combine these two together in order to be able to tell the farmer how is his farm on a given day, right? How much water he may need. I'm pretty sure farmers are far more experienced, right? But we are trying to see how we could augment their insights already available along with data from the ground. It could be a soil analysis, water analysis, the quality of water which is there on the field, right, available to them. Can you predict how much water may be required in the next 2 days based on the evaporation which is happening, right, on the field because of the weather conditions for the last few days, and any onset of rain or other environmental changes which are possibly happening because there is some satellite data available, right? So this combination of information is being used to provide both advisory as well as insights, right, and have farmers' ability to get better control. So these are some areas as an organization we are working on currently, right? Hopefully in the coming days, we will have those in the market for, we try it on a few farms and have it in the markets.
There is a question from Mr. Sendil Kumar. He says that decision making would be better if data is more accurate. What are all the challenges faced while collecting such data? What do you expect from public to capture accurate data? Did we sensitize public on this?
Sir, 100%. Garbage in, garbage out, as typically any software engineer or any technologist would say, right? If you're going to get a bad input, the output of a system is typically bad, right? That's a typical problem which happens even in a pandemic. There have been times where people have been reluctant to sharing data, okay? There has been a lot of social stigma. We have seen it even in our offices, I'll tell you this very frankly, right? Where people said, if my family knows I've become positive, they will basically not feel happy about it, right? There is a lot of social stigma which is still out there. Even though we are almost 400 days into the pandemic, everyone knows what needs to be done as basic measures, right? This stigma is still persistent. Now, the only way we can get this out to make people and community believe that there are measures available, there are steps which can be taken for anyone to get out of it, and vaccination is one such way. Sharing of information by people when they are getting their tests done, right? Accurate information where they are living, their numbers and all of that helps a long way in reducing the time to give or provide action. We have had initial days very, very poor quality of data. People will say one number, what is recorded is different, right? Or people would have given an address where they never lived, or they would have given an address where they lived 6 months back, right? But we still went and chased those people because of information being available, field force being available. People were tracked and traced, and support was provided, right? Even after many days. To reach out to them and find and use right. So many such incidences took place. So people need to be made aware. They're already aware, but I think hello.
I think Ashwin, your voice is fading out.
Any better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. So yeah, so awareness is certainly there. I think further awareness can obviously be developed, and more support can be provided to our citizens. I also saw one message from another Ashwin. I think he's mentioned about a particular challenge they have faced with getting it in COVID. Maybe you could reach out to us, sir. We'll try and see how we could help in this regard. We could at least inform the authorities that someone is vaccinated, but I'm pretty sure you may have got a card from the city which basically talks about which date you got your vaccination done, right? That is good enough. Using that card, you could go back and visit your nearby PHC, right? And they can actually get your data inputted into CoWIN, and that information be made available, and you'll get your certificate. That's one big growing concern, that certificates are not available, right? But I think that can be corrected. So.
Yeah, I think Haripriya has raised her hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Haripriya, you can unmute.
Yeah. Thank you. So what are the first signs that digital transformation needs to be adjusted in your case, particularly? Like you may be having so many data with you, which has to be adjusted, or a kind of a, I mean, what is the first sign that you see to that it has to be adjusted?
If you can get your question.
What do you mean data being adjusted?
Yeah.
Or anything else that it needs a kind of a transformation which requires the adjustment? Maybe I put it in that way.
Ideally speaking, right, when you're collecting digital data, one of the key things is you take the data as is, right? One, then look at what is available to you, what kind of insights can be derived with the data given whatever industry process you are in, right? So that would give you insights in terms of where is my industry, where I am currently, right? Augment generally that. That would probably be a better word, right? Augment that data with any other business data you may have fundamentally, right? And try and see, when I have these two data sets, can I get in your process? It could be an improvement in your compliance. It could be the data taken to go back to your customer in responding back to them in case of an issue, or how can you improve your service? That's how you fundamentally look at it, right? Because once you're able to augment your existing data, as any business, you would have tons of data, right? It's just a question of now taking all that raw data and try and see, how do I now break this data up into what you want to achieve as goals, right? You also know indicators in your business. Hey, how is my service levels today? How quickly am I responding back to my customers, be it for service, sales, for your operational information, right? How do I pick what is most important to my business today, which you as an owner, right, as an entrepreneur, as someone leading an organization or a managerial capacity, right, for your teams to be able to transform that work which is being done by your team. If you're taking 5 hours to do it, can you bring it down to 2.5 hours? If it is possible, right? If so, what kind of data do I need in order to achieve that? That is where data will help you. And how do you augment that data with other measures which you can do, what you can measure, right, can help you to get to that level. I hope I answered your question based on what.
Yes, well addressed. Thank you.
Dhanasekaran wanted to ask a question. Mr. Dhanasekaran, are you available? Can you unmute and put your question to the guest speaker? Mr. Dhanasekaran?
I think he's not there.
Okay. So any further questions? The participants, please unmute and put your questions.
Can we request Ram Sadagopan, the enabler of this today's meeting, to kindly say a few words on his perspective? Yes, Ram.
Can you all see me?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I was just, I'm happy that I could bring two sets of people, one brilliantly coming up with a solution for the Chennai Corporation to track the COVID, coming up with this platform. And the other side of, on the other side, we have the organizers of this AABN, that's Gopi and yourself, Mr. Tariq. I'm just being, I'm happy that I connected both of you for a very effective session. And I would like to thank Rahul and Ashwin. I know personally how busy they are, and you know how much a Sunday means to them. So I really thank both of them for having come here and given a good presentation. Thanks very much to both of you, and thanks to AABN for organizing this as well. I thought there's a lot of good information out here, and I think the audience is very varied. I'm not sure if everybody got all the, I'm sure there are a lot of questions in people's minds, which if you have further than this session, you can always connect. I can help you connect with them offline, and you can take the communication forward. Sorry, I have a sore throat. So that's just really all I have. A good presentation. Thank you, Ashwin and Rahul, for your insights.
Thank you so much, Ram and the organizing committee for giving us this opportunity. I've shared our contact number and email ID on the chat box. Would be really happy to answer any questions, or would be happy to stay connected with this elite group. I really thank each and one of you for the questions. And all I can say is we are all in it together, and we will fight this epidemic or this pandemic, and we'll all be back to our action very soon is what we all hope and pray. And I think we'll be definitely looking forward for that phase. So thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity, and have a great Sunday, all of you.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Ashwin.
Thank you,
Thanks for taking out. Thanks for taking a time out on your Sunday morning to be here with us. It was really a fantastic speech, and we really enjoyed it. A lot of takeaways from it. You know, very informative. So we had a lot of takeaways from it. Thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Hey, Gopi, 1 minute, Gopi. I think Haripriya has raised her hand again. If she has a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can I ask? It's a general one.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Where should businesses start with digital transformation? So not only with the COVID thing, I'm just asking in general, from where they should start the businesses, I mean, with the digital transformation in any kind of a business.
Maybe I can take a first response maybe. I think, ma'am, very, very important question. I think it will be very important to look at a process first, right? I think everything starts with a process. I think if you map your business, the value chain of your business from the start to end, and if you really see the whole process as such, it could be a procurement process, it could be a onboarding process of a hiring that happens in a particular business, or it could be the way that the customer support is provided as a process. I think the process automation part of it is the first step for digitization, where we look at ways in which we can accelerate the time that we can respond to a customer, how soon can we actually make it faster, or the cost optimization that could happen in a procurement, where we could look at ways in which we could get market intelligence in terms of the pricing and other things that we could look at in a business, enabling systems within the enterprise, like the ERPs and other things that we could look at, right from a CRM to ERP, how it will help in effectively the sales team to really kind of bring in some kind of an automation. I think for every digital initiative, I think two things are very, very important. One is my team or the team ready for this particular change, or is it a priority out of all the activities, whether we should actually take up this activity? And the second thing is the return on investment. And more today in the current world, it is also the return on information, right? So whether this information, because of an automation or digitization, is going to be of much greater value than the literal rupee term savings or benefit that it could bring in over a long term. It's both strategic as well as it is important to look at ROI, not just from a return of investment, but also return of information. I think if you are able to look at what is the priority for the business and align it with the roadmap that the vision or the roadmap that the business have for the next 1 or 2 years, and look at also the trends that are there happening in the adjacent businesses, right? And I always I'm a big fan of the pestle analysis, right, where you look at all the political, economical, technology, environmental, legal challenges that are around a particular business or a product. What is really changing around us? And then also bring in the factor of environment today, because environment is also an important thing, where every business is looking at sustainability initiatives, taking care of the planet, and making sure our future generations are ready for it. I think these are some of the aspects that we need to consider for digitization, or some of the simple questions that we need to list down and say, okay, do I need this? Do I need this? Is it really worth doing this? And what would be the intrinsic value that my business or my stakeholders who are part of the ecosystem would get? Could be the way to start.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have one last question. I think it's posted in chat box from Mr. Sarathi. Can we go ahead, Mr. Rahul?
Yeah, sure. See, I think your question is many keep away from government to known reasons of payment and not thing. So I think COVID has taught us one thing, right? And we touched about this humanity aspect, right? I think more businesses saw this as an opportunity to really help the community where we really do business. And from our end also, that's how we started, and we kind of went into the government and said we would like to kind of help you with the systems, right? Of course, the entire model is to really support the whole city and help in where we are actually doing business. And that's how every district, every place today, people are looking at whether setting up oxygen infrastructure, whether it is giving their vehicles for transportation or food and all of that. I think COVID has made us think beyond what benefit that we get from a monetary aspect. I think it's more of building the relationship. And that's why when I started the presentation, we all said, imagine the outcome. And the outcome here is a great relationship, a trust, a big service that we all saw from different set of communities. And I think I would like to leave it here in terms of saying the benefit of it could be for much greater realization of digital coming into the day-to-day lives post the COVID once we are out. And I think that has given us opportunity to probably look at business in that fashion, where how we could really engage on a long-term basis, whether it's a government or businesses, or it could be a few of you on the call who might need some help on digitization. That's how we really look at this from a implementation standpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Rahul and Mr. Ashwin.